Imagine your father is the sky. Now imagine he hates you so much that he tries to bury you alive. But he doesn't bury you in the ground. He buries you inside your own mother. This isn't a horror movie. This is the first 5 minutes of Greek mythology, and it starts with a scream. Welcome to the Cosmic War. Before Zeus, before Hercules, and before the Olympians, there was no order. There was only chaos. Today we are looking at the first crime in the history of the universe. We are going to see how the very first king of the gods turned his family into a war zone. Our goal? To survive the reign of Uranus. Let's go. In the beginning, there were two main players: Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth. They are the ultimate power couple. The sky covers the earth every single night. Naturally, they start having kids. First, they have the Titans. These guys are gorgeous. They are powerful, tall, and look like supermodels. Uranus is a proud dad. He's thinking, great genes, good job, me. But then, Gaia gives birth to the second batch. First, the Cyclopes, three massive giants, each with one single glowing eye in the center of their forehead. Then the Hecatoncheires, monsters with 50 heads and 100 hands. I want you to really picture that for a second. We aren't just talking about ugly. A Hecatoncheires didn't just have 50 heads. It had 50 mouths screaming in different languages at the exact same time. It had 100 hands grabbing at everything in sight, tearing up trees, crushing rocks, thrashing around without any control. Imagine the noise. Imagine the pure chaos of living with that. Uranus looks at this chaotic mess, at the one-eyed giants and the 100-handed beasts, and literally goes, "Ew." He is the god of the heavens. He wants his Instagram feed to be perfect. These monsters, they ruin the aesthetic. So Uranus makes a decision. He decides to hit delete on his own kids. He takes them, all of them, and he shoves them back where they came from. He imprisons them inside the earth, inside Gaia's womb. Crime count, number 1. Wait, pause. I need you to understand the physics of this. We aren't talking about a bad tummy ache. Gaia is the earth. Her children are the size of mountains. Imagine trying to hold a mountain inside your stomach while it punches and kicks to get out. That is Gaia right now. She is swollen, stretched, and in agony every second of every day. Meanwhile, Uranus, he goes back up to the sky. He thinks the problem is solved, out of sight, out of mind. But he forgot one thing. You do not mess with a mother protecting her kids. Gaia realizes her husband won't listen to reason. So she decides to speak the only language tyrants understand: violence. She digs into her own body, her own pain, and creates a new element: gray flint, adamant. Now this wasn't just a sharp rock. Gaia created adamant, the hardest substance in the universe. It is unbreakable. It is the same material that later in history, the chains of Prometheus and the gates of hell are made of. Gaia essentially invented the only thing in existence sharp enough to cut a god. She shapes it into a sickle, a curved blade designed for harvesting or butchering. She calls a secret family meeting with her pretty children, the Titans. She shows them the blade and says, "Your father is a monster. Who will help me kill him?" Silence. Absolute silence. Be honest. If your dad was the literal sky 10,000 feet tall, would you step forward? Comment yes or no right now. The Titans are terrified. They look at the ceiling, they look at the blade, and they look at the floor. If they miss, they die. Except for one. The youngest, the quiet one. Cronus. Cronus hates his father. Maybe he's jealous. Maybe he's ambitious. But he steps forward, grabs the jagged sickle and says, "I'll do it." Now, hold on. We need to understand why this matters. This isn't just a murder plot. This is the moment the cycle of succession begins. In Greek mythology, power is never given. It is taken. Uranus was the first tyrant. He believed he had the right to decide who lives and who is imprisoned based on his own vanity. Gaia's reaction proves the fundamental law of this universe. Oppression creates monsters. By imprisoning the monsters, Uranus actually created a bigger monster in his son, Cronus. Cronus isn't doing this just to be a hero. Look at the logic. Gaia needs a hitman. She needs someone willing to commit the ultimate sin. Cronus accepts the weapon because he realizes something. If he kills the king, he becomes the king. This is the moment the universe learned how politics works. To rule, you must be ruthless. To survive, you must be paranoid. The trap is set. Gaia hides Cronus in the shadows of the earth. He grips the sickle, his knuckles white. And here comes Uranus. He descends from the heavens, expecting his wife's embrace. He has no idea that his son is waiting for him in the dark. What happens next is the most brutal, bloody, and important event in mythology. It will create the Furies. It will create the goddess of love. And it will curse Cronus to the exact same fate as his father. Next time, the king falls, and the blood hits the water. Subscribe so you don't miss the castration. Imagine for a second that you are hiding under your parents' bed. Your heart is pounding against your ribs like a hammer. You have a kitchen knife gripped tight in your sweaty hand. You are waiting for your father to fall asleep, and you know that the moment he closes his eyes, you are going to change the family forever. Now, take that fear and scale it up, way up. Cronus isn't hiding in a bedroom. He is hiding inside the crust of the earth. He is crouching in the tectonic plates, waiting for the right moment. And the weapon? It's not steel. It is a sickle made of adamant, a jagged gray flint that is the sharpest, hardest substance in the entire universe. This isn't a metaphor. This is the night the sky falls down, and it is going to get messy. If you missed the last episode, here's the quick recap you need to understand the crime scene. Uranus, the sky god, became the first true tyrant in history. He was obsessed with perfection. He hated his own children because they were ugly and monstrous. But he didn't just banish them to a faraway land. He shoved them back inside the womb of his wife, Gaia, the Earth. This caused Gaia physically agonizing pain. She was carrying full-grown giants inside her earth crust, and she couldn't take it anymore. She created the weapon, and she begged her beautiful Titan sons to help her. They all said no. They were terrified of the sky, except for one, Cronus, the youngest, the hungriest. He looked at the weapon, and he looked at the throne, and he realized they were the same thing. He took the mission. The goal of today's episode is simple. Commit the first crime in existence. Kill the king. Take the crown. Let's see how he pulls it off. The plan relies on one specific weakness: arrogance. Uranus is the king of the universe. It never even occurs to him that someone would fight back. He thinks he owns the furniture. He descends from the heavens to sleep with Gaia, just like he does every night. He spreads his misty clouds over the mountains and valleys, wrapping the earth in a blanket of night. He is completely relaxed. He has no armor, no shield, no guards. He thinks he is safe in his wife's arms. He thinks his victims are helpless. But Cronus is there. He is crouching in a fissure of the earth, holding his breath. His hand is sweating on the handle of the adamant sickle. He waits. One breath. The sky settles. 2 breaths. The sky closes its eyes. Now. Cronus bursts out of the ground. With his left hand, he grabs his father. With his right hand, he swings the sickle. It isn't a fight. It is an execution. One clean, jagged cut. He castrates the sky god. Uranus screams. It is a sound that cracks glaciers and shakes the foundations of the world. In his pain and shame, he pulls away, retreating up into the atmosphere. He flees so high that he never comes back down. That is why the sky never touches the earth anymore. They are divorced by blood. The king is gone, but the consequences are just starting. You cannot stab the sky without making a mess. Blood pours from the wound. Gallons of divine ichor rain down on the earth. Now normal blood just dries up and disappears. But this is the blood of a primordial god. It is full of life and raw power. It hits the ground, It soaks into Gaia, and horrifyingly, the Earth gets pregnant again. But she doesn't give birth to babies. She gives birth to consequences. From the blood-soaked soil, the Araignées rise up. You probably know them as the Furies. Let me tell you how scary these things are. In ancient Greece, people were actually afraid to say their names out loud. They called them the kindly ones, just to avoid getting their attention, because if they looked at you, you were done. They rise from the mud with the heads of dogs, snakes for hair, and wings like bats. Their eyes drip poisonous blood. They are the universe's karma police. Their job is very specific. They hunt down children who kill their parents. Do you see the problem? Cronus just killed his father. The Furies are born from that exact murder. Cronus didn't just win a war. He created the very detectives that will hunt him down. They are born with his name on their lips, and they are looking right at him. But wait, what happened to the part that Cronus cut off? He threw it over his shoulder. It flew across the map of Greece and landed in the dark, churning sea. It floats there, drifting. The salt water mixes with the divine flesh. It starts to churn. White, thick sea foam begins to bubble up around it. It spreads for miles, glowing with a strange, ethereal light. And from the center of that foam, a figure stands up. She walks onto the shore of Cyprus. The water glows pink and gold. Flowers bloom where she steps. She is perfect. She is breathtaking. She is undeniable. This is Aphrodite, the goddess of love, the goddess of beauty. Here is a little fact check for you. Her name, Aphrodite, literally comes from the Greek word aphros, which means foam. She is the lady of the foam. This is the greatest irony in all of mythology. Think about it. The most violent, ugly, grotesque act in history. A son castrating his father created the most beautiful thing in the universe. Love was born from pain. Beauty was born from violence. In Greek mythology, these two things are always connected. You cannot have one without the other. So the dust settles. Uranus is gone. The Furies are roaming the earth. Aphrodite is walking on the beach. And Cronus? Cronus is king. He sits on the throne of the cosmos. He has everything he wanted. But he isn't happy. He is terrified. Why? Because of the cycle of succession. As Uranus fled into the sky, he shouted a curse at his son, a prophecy that would haunt him forever. He said, "You have betrayed your father. One day, your children will betray you." This sentence breaks Cronus's brain. He realizes that by killing the king, he proved that kings can be killed. He proved that sons can overthrow fathers. He starts to think like a politician, not a hero. Remember why he did this? He promised his mother Gaia that he would free his brothers, the monsters, from their prison. That was the whole deal. But now that he is in charge, he hesitates. He looks at the prison pit. He sees the 100-handed ones. He sees the Cyclopes. And he thinks, if I let them out, they are powerful enough to kill me. So what does he do? He says, nah. He leaves them in the pit. He betrays his mother. Quick question. If you were Cronus, knowing a prophecy said your family would kill you, would you have freed the monsters or kept them locked up? Let me know in the comments. By making this choice, Cronus teaches us the key lesson of this episode. Oppression creates monsters. Uranus was a monster, so he created Cronus. Now, Cronus is acting like a monster, so he is going to create something even worse. He validates the curse. He marries his sister Rhea to secure his bloodline. She gets pregnant instantly. Cronus stares at her growing belly. He doesn't see a son. He sees an assassin. The prophecy is ringing in his ears like a tinnitus he can't cure. Your child will kill you. Your child will kill you. Cronus decides he cannot take the risk. He comes up with a solution, a final solution. Rhea gives birth to a beautiful baby girl named Hestia. She wraps the baby in a soft blanket. She hands the baby to Cronus, expecting a fatherly hug. She expects him to smile. Cronus holds the baby. He looks at her tiny face. And then, he opens his mouth. He doesn't just kill her. He swallows her whole. Next time, the king becomes a cannibal. 5 children go down the hatch. You won't just see him eat them. You will hear the crunch. You will feel the madness of a god who tries to eat the future to save his own past. But one mother has had enough. She grabs a stone and prepares the trick that will save the universe. Subscribe now. You do not want to miss the birth of Zeus. The king of the universe just burped. He didn't eat a steak, he didn't eat a salad, he didn't even chew. He just ate his own daughter. And the scariest part isn't the cannibalism itself. It is the silence that follows, because she is still alive inside him. Welcome to the most dysfunctional family dinner in the history of existence. If you are new here, we need to look at the crime scene report from the last episode. Cronus, the Titan King, just murdered his father, Uranus, to take the throne. But as his father bled out, he screamed a curse that would haunt Cronus forever. He said, "You killed your father. One day your children will kill you." Cronus is now the king. He has the crown. He has the palace. He has the power of the cosmos. But he doesn't have peace. He has a ticking time bomb in his head. The goal of today's story is to answer one question. How far will a politician go to stay in power? The answer is simple. He is going to turn his own stomach into a maximum security prison. Let's look at the psychology of a tyrant. Cronus is suffering from extreme paranoia. Every time his wife, Rhea, gets pregnant, he doesn't see a baby. He sees an assassin. He remembers the prophecy. Your child will kill you. So he comes up with a plan. It is brutal. It is efficient. It is the swallow strategy. But before we get to the horror, you need to understand the scale. We are talking about titans here. Cronus isn't a human. He is the size of a skyscraper. He is a living mountain of muscle and golden ichor. When his children are born, they are gods, yes, but they are infants. Compared to him, they are the size of a gummy bear. They are tiny, helpless specks against a creature that can touch the clouds. The size difference alone makes this terrifying. When he picks them up, they are lost in the valleys of his fingerprints. It starts with Hestia. She is the firstborn, the goddess of the hearth, the sweetest, kindest soul in the pantheon. She is born. Rhea wraps her in a blanket. She hands her to Cronus, hoping this time will be different. Cronus looks at the baby. He doesn't smile. He unhinges his jaw like a python. And then, down she goes. But here is the true horror of Greek mythology. Gods are immortal. They cannot die. They cannot be digested. So Hestia isn't dissolved by acid. She doesn't fade away. She sits in the pitch-black, suffocating darkness of her father's stomach. Alive, conscious, waiting. Then comes Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, down the hatch. Then Hera, the queen of heaven, gone in a second. Rhea is screaming. She is begging. But Cronus is cold. He isn't acting like a father. He is acting like a waste disposal unit. Then come the boys. Hades, the future king of the underworld. He spends his first moments of existence entering the darkness. It's poetic, really. He is born into the hell he will one day rule. And finally, Poseidon, the earth shaker, the storm bringer. 5 children, 5 gods, all trapped in the claustrophobic, churning gut of the king. Cronus pats his belly. He thinks he has won. He thinks he has cheated fate. He thinks, if they are inside me, they can't kill me. But he forgot one variable, the mother. Rhea is the Titan goddess of flow and ease. She is supposed to be gentle. She is supposed to go with the flow. But you can only push a mother so far before she snaps. She just watched her husband eat 5 of her babies. She is pregnant with the 6th. She feels the kick inside her. She knows this one is different. She knows this is the last chance. She decides to break the cycle. But she can't do it alone. She needs help. So, who does she call? She calls the very people Cronus betrayed. She goes to Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. Yes, the same parents that Cronus attacked in the last episode. This is how messy Greek politics are. The enemy of my enemy is my grandmother. Rhea asks them for a plan. Gaia, who hates Cronus for keeping her other children in prison, whispers a secret to her. She tells her to run. She tells her to go to the island of Crete, to hide in the Dictyon cave, to give birth in the absolute dark. Rhea packs her bags. She flees the palace in the middle of the night. She flies across the sea. She crawls into a damp, cold cave deep in the mountains. And there, in the shadows, she gives birth to the youngest son, the heavy hitter, the king of kings, Zeus. But now she has a problem, a massive problem. Cronus counts the months. He knows the baby is due. He is hungry. He is banging on the door of the palace, demanding his meal. If Rhea comes back empty-handed, he will know she is hiding something. He will hunt them down. She needs a decoy. She needs a fake. This is the moment that changes the universe. Rhea looks around the wilderness. She grabs a stone. Not a special magical stone, just a rock. A hard, cold, jagged piece of granite from the earth. It is roughly the size of a newborn baby. She wraps it in layers of soft, white wool. She swaddles it tight, layer after layer, until the sharp edges are hidden, until you can't see the rock anymore. She holds it to her chest. It's heavy. It's cold. It feels nothing like a child. She walks back to the palace. She walks up to the obsidian throne where the giant sits. Cronus is waiting. His eyes are yellow with madness. He holds out a hand the size of a van. "Give it to me," he demands. Rhea holds out the bundle. Her hands are shaking. If he checks, if he pulls back the blanket, if he touches the cold stone, they are all dead. The fate of the cosmos hangs on this 1 second. Cronus doesn't check. He is so arrogant, so obsessed with his own power, that he doesn't even look at his son's face. He grabs the bundle. He tilts his massive head back. He drops the stone into his mouth. It's a brutal swallow. The rock is hard. It scrapes against the back of his throat. You can practically hear the dry friction as it slides down his esophagus. It forces its way down, heavy and unyielding. It tears at the lining of his throat. It isn't soft like the others. It is dead weight. And then, a dull, heavy thud. It lands in his stomach, crashing right on top of Hestia, Hades, and Poseidon. Cronus burps. He smiles at Rhea. "Safe," he says. He goes to sleep, thinking he has secured his throne for eternity. He has no idea that he just ate a placebo. He has no idea that he just swallowed a lie. And he has no idea that the real disease is growing up in a cave, doing push-ups. So why does this matter? Why is this story about more than just a cannibal dad? It teaches us about the self-fulfilling prophecy. Cronus tried so hard to stop his children from killing him that he gave them a reason to kill him. Think about it. If Cronus had been a good dad, if he had loved his kids and treated them with respect, they probably wouldn't have rebelled. The prophecy might have been broken by love, but by trying to control the future, he created the very enemy he feared. He turned his children into soldiers. He turned his wife into a spy. He turned his home into a battlefield. Meanwhile, on Crete, Zeus is growing up fast, but raising a crying baby god in secret is hard. Gods are loud. Their voices carry like thunder. If Zeus cries, Cronus might hear him from the palace across the ocean. So Rhea invents the first noise-canceling system. She hires a group of dancers called the Choretes. These are warriors. Every time baby Zeus screams or cries, these warriors dance around the cave, banging their swords against their bronze shields. The metal clashing against metal creates a wall of sound. They drown out the sound of the baby with the sound of war. This is the perfect metaphor for Zeus's childhood. He is raised in the noise of battle. He drinks the milk of a goat named Amalthea, which gives him super strength. He isn't growing up to be a diplomat. He isn't growing up to be a politician. He is growing up to be a general. Cronus is sitting on his throne, digesting a rock, getting fatter and slower. Zeus is in the mud, getting stronger, faster, and angrier. The causality is clear. Oppression doesn't create peace, it creates pressure. And eventually, the pipe bursts. Zeus is ready. He is a full-grown adult. Lightning flickers in his eyes. He stands at the mouth of the cave looking toward Mount Othrys. But he has a problem. He can't beat Cronus alone. The Titan King is too strong. Zeus needs an army. But where can he find an army powerful enough to fight the Titans? Oh, right. His army is currently sitting inside his father's stomach. He needs to get them out. But he can't cut them out, or he might kill them. He needs to make Cronus give them back. He needs to make the king purge. Zeus is strong, but he isn't smart enough for this yet. He needs a brain. He needs a strategist. He needs a weapon that isn't made of steel. He finds it in a girl named Metis. Metis is the goddess of wisdom. She is sharper than any sword in Zeus's arsenal. She listens to Zeus's problem, and she smiles. She doesn't hand him a shield. She hands him a cup. She brews a mixture. Mustard, salt, nectar. It is the perfect emetic. A vomit inducer so powerful it could turn a mountain inside out. Next time, the Great Purge. Zeus goes undercover as a servant. He slips Metis's poison into the king's wine. You are going to see the most violent regurgitation in history. The stone comes up first. A cannonball fired from the throat, then Poseidon, then Hades, then the girls. And when they hit the floor, they aren't babies anymore. They are full-grown gods, and they are absolutely furious. The Titan War begins. 10 years of earth-shattering combat, lightning versus lava, Olympians versus Titans. The universe is about to burn, and if you aren't subscribed, you're going to miss the spark that started the fire. Imagine the sound of a tectonic plate snapping in half. Now, imagine that sound coming from inside a human stomach. We aren't starting this story with a handshake. We are starting with the most violent case of food poisoning in the history of the universe. The king of the gods is on his knees. He is heaving. His throat is bulging like a python that just swallowed a bowling ball. And he is about to vomit up an entire army. Let's rewind 10 seconds. If you are new here, here is the crime scene. Cronus is the king, but he is a cannibal. To stop a prophecy that said his kids would kill him, he ate them alive. He swallowed 5 gods: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. They are sitting in his stomach right now, glowing in the dark, bathed in acid, waiting to be digested. But he missed one. Zeus. Rhea, the mother, tricked Cronus by feeding him a rock wrapped in a blanket. Zeus grew up in a cave, drinking goat milk and training for this exact moment. Today, the training is over. The goal is simple: get the family out. But you can't cut them out. If you slice the king's stomach, you might slice the children inside. You have to make the king give them back. Zeus is strong, but he isn't stupid. He knows he cannot walk into the obsidian palace and punch a titan in the face. Cronus is 50 feet tall. Zeus is just a guy with a hidden dagger and a bad attitude. He has no magic weapons, no lightning, nothing but his nerve. He needs an inside man, or rather, an inside woman. Enter Metis. She is the goddess of wisdom and cunning. She looks at Zeus and says, "If you fight him, you lose. If you poison him, you win." She brews a drink. It isn't wine. It is a mixture of mustard, salt, sulfur, and nectar. Imagine drinking warm, salty ocean water mixed with battery acid. It looks like a fine vintage, but it tastes like a chemical burn designed to reject nature itself. Zeus disguises himself as the cupbearer. He walks into the throne room. The floor is polished black marble. The air is freezing. Cronus is sitting there, paranoid, tired, and thirsty. Zeus hands him the cup. Cronus doesn't look at the servant. He just wants the wine. He drains the cup in one massive, greedy gulp. 3 seconds later, the reaction starts. It starts as a cough, then a gag. Then Cronus's eyes go wide. His divine stomach, the divine void, contracts violently. The first projectile, the stone. The massive granite rock flies out of his mouth and crashes into the ground, shattering the marble floor. The second projectile, Poseidon. The third, Hades. The fourth, Hera. The fifth, Demeter. The sixth, Hestia. They come out full grown. Remember, they are gods. They are immortal. They didn't die in the stomach. They just waited. They hit the floor covered in golden bile, confused and angry. They look up. They see Zeus. And for the first time in history, the Olympians are together. For 1 second, there is total silence. Just the sound of dripping bile and heavy breathing. Then Cronus screams. The walls of the palace begin to shake as the other titans, Hyperion, Atlas, Oceanus, rush the room. The Olympians don't fight yet. They are outnumbered and unarmed. They run. They jump off the mountain before the king can recover his strength. The heist is over. The civil war has begun. You might think, great, the team is assembled. They win next week. Wrong. This is where the reality of the war sets in. This event is called the Titanomachy, and it becomes a logistical nightmare. The war splits the universe into two camps. On one mountain, you have Mount Othrys. This is the Titan base. It is brutal, jagged, and dark. On the other mountain, you have Mount Olympus. This is the rebel base. The war drags on. Not for a week, not for a month, for 10 years. Why? Why couldn't they kill each other? It comes down to the biology of a god. Gods don't bleed red blood. They bleed ichor. It's the exact same golden substance that covered them in the stomach. It heals almost instantly. You can stab a titan, and he will just laugh. You can crush a god, and he will reform. It is a stalemate of attrition. It is 10 years of pain without death. But the titans have the advantage of scale. The titans are the old gods. They represent raw, brute force. They are the size of mountains. When they fight, they don't use swords. They rip the tops off islands and throw them like frisbees. The Olympians, Zeus and his siblings, are the new gods. They are smaller, faster, and smarter. But imagine a toddler trying to fight a skyscraper. That is Zeus versus Atlas. Every time Zeus tries to advance, the Titans just wall him off with brute strength. The Olympians are agile, but they lack firepower. They are fighting tanks with handguns. Zeus sits on Mount Olympus watching his siblings get battered. He realizes that heroism isn't working. He is losing. The prophecy said he would overthrow his father. It didn't say it would be easy. Zeus needs to change the equation. He calls a war council. He looks at his brothers, Hades and Poseidon. They are exhausted. Their golden ichor is staining the ground. Hades says, "We can't break their line. They are too durable." Zeus realizes he is making the exact same mistake his father made. He is trusting only his beautiful family. He is fighting a clean war. But to defeat a monster, you need monsters. He remembers the stories his mother Rhea told him. Stories about the other children, the ones Cronus didn't eat, the ones Cronus ignored. Remember the Cyclopes, the one-eyed giants? Remember the Hecatoncheires, the beasts with 50 heads and 100 hands? Where are they? They are still in prison. Uranus threw them in the pit. Cronus left them in the pit because he was afraid of them. Zeus looks at the floor of the world. He looks deep down into the crust of the earth towards Tartarus. He realizes that the most powerful weapons in the universe aren't on the battlefield. They are locked in the basement. If he wants to win, he has to do the one thing his father and grandfather refused to do. He has to go to hell. Literally. Let's pause the war for a second and look at the politics. Why has this war lasted 10 years? Why is Zeus losing? It comes down to hubris versus strategy. Cronus is losing his grip because of arrogance. He had 10 years to crush the rebellion, but he didn't. He sat on his throne, paranoid but inactive. He thought his size alone was enough to rule. He underestimated the power of a coordinated team. But Zeus is stuck because of tradition. Up until this moment, the gods have always been the beautiful ones, the perfectionists. They looked at the ugly children, the Cyclopes, and hid them away. This is the lesson of the Titanomachy. Exclusion is a weakness. Uranus lost his throne because he imprisoned the monsters. Cronus kept his throne for a while, but now he is losing it because he kept them in prison. Zeus realizes that the monsters are not liabilities. They are assets. The Cyclopes are master blacksmiths. They can build weapons that channel the power of the sky. The Hecatoncheires are living artillery. They can throw 100 rocks at once. Zeus is about to become the first modern politician of mythology. He doesn't care what you look like. He doesn't care if you have one eye or 50 heads. He only cares about one question. Can you help me kill my dad? This is the shift. The war isn't won by the strongest warrior. It is won by the best alliance builder. Cronus fights alone. Zeus builds a coalition. The decision is made. Zeus stands up. He tells Hades and Poseidon to guard the mountain. "Where are you going?" they ask. "I'm going to get us some heavy artillery," Zeus says. He begins the descent, down past the roots of the mountains, down past the caves, into the black, crushing pressure of Tartarus. This isn't just a prison break. This is a suicide mission. Tartarus isn't just a jail. It is the stomach of the earth. It is a place of total sensory deprivation. It is the anti-womb. And it is not empty. It is guarded by Campes, a dragon with 1,000 vipers for feet. If Zeus fails, he doesn't just lose the war. He gets absorbed into the darkness forever. Next time, the prison doors open. The Cyclopes step out into the light, and they are grateful. They don't just say thank you. They give Zeus a gift. They forge a weapon out of pure plasma and light. The Master Bolt. The war ends next episode, and the Titans are going to wish they stayed in the stomach. Subscribe now. You do not want to see what happens when a god gets his first nuke. A boulder the size of a city crushes a god. Golden blood splatters the scorched earth. Mountains shatter into dust while oceans boil into steam. This is year 10 of a brutal stalemate. The sky falls. On one side stands the old regime of Titans. On the other side stand angry kids who want the throne. It represents a family dispute that breaks the planet. The stakes demand absolute control over the cosmos. To win, the rebel king must cross a line no god ever crossed. This is the story of how Zeus won the universe and why it ultimately cost him everything. Last episode, a son poisoned his father. Zeus tricked Cronus. Cronus vomited his 5 swallowed kids, and the royal family split into 2 factions. The Titanomachy began. This conflict functions as a civil war for the universe, while both sides fight a war of total attrition. For 10 years, neither side gained a single kilometer. The oceans turned toxic. The skies rained ash. The world burned while the immortals fought. Zeus faces a critical tactical problem. The Titans tower as giants. They possess superior combat experience and control the raw resources. They hold the high ground on Mount Othryus. The young gods lose ground daily because brute strength fails against an entrenched enemy. Their attacks bounce off Titan armor, and their battle strategies crumble. So what do you do when brute force fails? You change the rules. The goal today demands absolute clarity. Find a game changer. Secure the ultimate weapon. Execute the coup. Take the crown. The war hits a dead end. 10 years of fighting yields 0 progress, so Zeus reviews his strategy. He realizes a core political truth. A rebel cannot beat an established regime using direct force because a rebel requires alliances. The Titans command superior numbers, meaning Zeus needs heavy artillery. He needs overwhelming firepower to break the enemy lines. Where do you find that kind of power? You look in the dark. He accesses a state secret, Deep underground sits Tartarus. It functions as a maximum security prison that rests exactly 6,000 kilometers beneath the surface. It sits right at the planetary core. It represents the darkest place in existence. The geological pressure crushes solid rock into diamond dust, while the ambient heat melts standard metals instantly. Inside this prison sit the first biological outcasts, the Cyclopes, the Titanomachy. Uranus locked them up, and Cronus kept them locked up. They languish as political prisoners. They suffer in absolute sensory deprivation. Zeus sees an opportunity. He acts as a liberator. Zeus leaves the battlefield. He travels down past the crust of the earth. He navigates the subterranean caverns until he reaches the massive brass gates of Tartarus. He eliminates the prison guards and shatters the iron chains, breaching the vault to stand before the monsters. He offers a direct political deal. He wastes no time on long speeches. Fight for my faction. Destroy my father. You get your freedom. The monsters accept the terms. The alliance secures his advantage. Zeus gains his army. The freed prisoners operate as master engineers. They owe Zeus their lives. They move to the underground forge. They build weapons to break the stalemate. They invent weapons of mass destruction. First, they forge a helmet for Hades. They call it the Helm of Darkness. It deletes the user from visual perception. It absorbs all light, which grants total invisibility. It allows the user to bypass any physical defense without detection. Hades can walk through enemy camps completely unseen. Second, they forge a trident for Poseidon. It acts as a three-pronged spear. It controls oceanic pressure and manipulates seismic pressure. It triggers 9.0 magnitude earthquakes. It summons tsunamis measuring 100 meters tall. It turns the water itself into a weapon. Poseidon can drown entire armies. Third, they build the master weapon for Zeus. The Cyclopes trap raw plasma. They harness atmospheric static to forge the lightning bolt. It lacks a metal blade. It functions as a concentrated blast of pure energy. It emits heat measuring 30,000 degrees Celsius, matching the surface of the sun. The blast radius covers 500 kilometers. It serves as the nuclear option of the ancient world. Zeus arms his brothers. The young gods return to the surface. They carry the new arsenal. The Titans hold their ground because they expect another day of standard combat. The Titans do not know the rules of the war just changed. The paradigm shifted completely. The final battle starts. The Olympians deploy their new assets. Hades puts on his helmet. He vanishes. He infiltrates the Titan camp, severs their supply lines, and shatters their weapons. He cripples their logistics before the fight even begins. The Titans panic because they fight an enemy they cannot see. They strike at empty air. Poseidon strikes the ground with his trident. The tectonic plates shift. The ground cracks open. Fault lines rupture across the entire battlefield. The Titans lose their footing as the earth swallows their front lines. Mountains collapse into the sea. The geography of Greece changes forever. Then, the Titanomachy step forward. They act as heavy artillery. They possess 100 arms each. They pick up boulders and throw 300 rocks per second. The rocks break the sound barrier. A meteor shower of 5,000 kilogram projectiles hits the Titans. The barrage proves relentless. The Titanomachy reload instantly. Their arms blur with speed. The impact craters resemble lunar strikes. The kinetic energy obliterates the Titan defenses. The Titan lines break. The Titans retreat in total disarray. Zeus steps to the front. He targets the Titan leader, Cronus. He raises the lightning bolt. He fires. The sky ignites. The blast blinds the enemy. The heat melts the rocks into glass. The shockwave flattens the entire battlefield. The explosion vaporizes the surrounding landscape. The Titans fall to their knees. They surrender to the new power. The war ends. The coup succeeds. Zeus claims the throne. He reigns as the new king. But how does a king secure his power to prevent future rebellions? He eliminates the competition entirely. He arrests his uncles. He arrests his aunts. He strips them of their titles. He holds a military tribunal and sentences the Titans to life in prison. He marches them down into the dark. He throws the Titans into Tartarus. He locks the brass doors. The vault seals tightly. Zeus places guards at the gates of Tartarus. He assigns the Hecatoncheires as the new wardens. He trusts monsters over his own bloodline. Examine the mechanics of this victory. Look at the politics. Zeus executed the exact strategy his father used. Uranus imprisoned his rivals in Tartarus. Cronus imprisoned his rivals in Tartarus. Now Zeus imprisons his rivals in Tartarus. The faces on the throne change, but the prison beneath the throne remains full. The cycle of tyranny continues. Zeus thinks he solved the problem, but did he? No. He actually engineered his next crisis. Trace the logic. Gaia embodies the Earth. She mothered the Titans. She hated Uranus because Uranus locked up her monster children. She armed Cronus and instructed Cronus to kill Uranus. Then she hated Cronus. Cronus kept the monsters locked up. She backed Zeus and helped Zeus defeat Cronus. Now Zeus sits on the throne. What does he do? He locks up a different set of Gaia's children. He locks up the Titans. Gaia expects a seat at the table. She expects shared governance. She expects her children to live on the surface. Instead, Zeus ignores her. He consolidates absolute power. He rules alone. He centralizes all authority on Mount Olympus. He builds his regime on paranoia. That same paranoia destroyed his father and his grandfather. He repeats the fatal error of his predecessors. Why? Because he ignores the fundamental law of power in this universe. Oppression guarantees resistance. The cycle resets immediately. Gaia realizes Zeus lacks savior qualities. Zeus acts as a new dictator. He simply wears a different crown. The earth itself turns against the sky. Zeus won the political war, but he lost the support of nature. Gaia decides the current king must fall. She abandons alliances. She abandons politics. She prepares direct revenge. She acts alone. Gaia retreats deep into the Earth's core. She assesses the threat. Zeus wields the lightning bolt. Regular armies fail against him. Standard gods fail against him. How do you destroy a god armed with a nuclear weapon? You create a weapon of mass extinction. She mates with the prison itself. She mates with Tartarus to give birth to one final child, Typhon. Typhon fathers all monsters. He functions as a biological weapon. His head brushes the stratosphere. His arms span exactly 5,000 kilometers from east to west. They cover entire continents. He breathes concentrated fire. He controls Category 5 hurricanes. His footsteps trigger seismic events measuring 9.0 on the Richter scale. The earth cracks under his weight. Next time, the ultimate weapon meets the ultimate monster. Zeus fights alone. The new king suffers defeat. He loses his weapons. He loses his tendons. He loses his pride. Will the lightning bolt save the regime? Or will the earth reclaim the throne? Subscribe to witness the fall of the king. Imagine a magnitude 9.0 earthquake tearing through your city, leveling every structure in sight. Now, imagine that earthquake has a face. The ground shatters open, and a biological weapon steps out of the Earth's crust. His head scrapes the stratosphere. His arms stretch 5,000 kilometers across the continent, instantly blocking out the sun. He breathes concentrated fire that turns mountains into glass. His only objective is the absolute destruction of the king of the gods. This is the story of the day Zeus realized he was not invincible. Last episode, Zeus executed a flawless military campaign. He freed the Cyclopes, acquired a nuclear-level weapon called the lightning bolt, and won a brutal 10-year civil war. Therefore, he locked the old regime, the Titans, in a maximum security prison called Tartarus. Zeus sits on his new throne, convinced the war is over and his power is absolute. But he is completely wrong. Ancient sources like Apollodorus recorded the events of this episode as the closest the Greek cosmos ever came to total, irreversible collapse. This episode covers the ultimate boss battle, showing exactly how the new king almost lost his entire empire in a single catastrophic day. Gaia is the earth and she is furious. Zeus imprisoned her children, the Titans, deep underground. Therefore, Gaia realizes Zeus is not acting as a savior to the universe. He is acting as a new dictator. He wears a different crown, but he operates the exact same oppressive regime as his father. As a result, Gaia abandons political negotiations. She abandons alliances. She chooses total, uncompromising destruction. She travels to the lowest point of the universe, the dark abyss of Tartarus. But she does not go there to mount a rescue mission. Instead, she mates with the prison itself. She creates a weapon designed specifically to assassinate Zeus and dismantle his government. His name is Typhon. Typhon is not a typical god or a standard monster. He is an extinction-level event. His physical specifications break all laws of biology. His height reaches the ozone layer. Instead of legs, his lower body consists of two massive, coiled vipers that crush bedrock as he moves. 100 dragon heads sprout from his shoulders, each capable of independent thought and attack. His offensive capabilities are unmatched. He shoots fire, spits corrosive venom, and emits sonic blasts that permanently deafen immortals within a 100-kilometer radius. Typhon climbs out of the ground, bypassing all established defense grids. He charges straight across the continent, heading directly for the capital city of Mount Olympus. And in exactly 5 minutes, the king of the gods will be begging for his life on the battlefield. So, what happens when a biological weapon meets a god? The gods panic. They look down from their fortress, see a 5,000-kilometer-wide monster destroying the landscape, and the royal family instantly breaks rank. They do not hold the line. They run. The gods do not just retreat. They abandon their posts like corrupt politicians fleeing a falling capital. They evacuate the continent entirely and run to Egypt. But Typhon has thermal vision and tracking senses. Therefore, to hide from him, the gods shapeshift into local wildlife. Apollo turns into a crow, Ares turns into a fish, and Aphrodite turns into a cow. It is a complete tactical retreat and a massive political humiliation for the new government. Only two gods stand their ground at the capital: Zeus and Athena. Zeus cannot retreat. If he runs, he loses the throne permanently, and his authority is void. Therefore, he launches a preemptive strike, firing hundreds of lightning bolts at Typhon. The bolts hit their target, causing massive thermal explosions that boil the oceans and vaporize the surrounding terrain. But Typhon simply absorbs the damage. The biological weapon keeps moving forward and forces Zeus into close-quarters combat. The lightning bolt is strictly a ranged weapon. At close range, its explosive radius is a liability. As a result, Typhon physically overwhelms Zeus, pinning the king to the ground. Typhon does not kill Zeus. Gods cannot die. Instead, Typhon systematically disables him. Using razor-sharp claws, Typhon slices open Zeus's arms and legs, manually ripping out the god's tendons. Because gods cannot regenerate stolen body parts, the regime is effectively dead. Zeus is completely paralyzed. His structural support is gone, leaving him a king who cannot walk, strike, or hold a weapon. Typhon takes the severed tendons and hides them in a remote cave in Cilicia. He places a massive half-woman, half-serpent dragon named Delphine to guard the location. Then, he dumps the paralyzed Zeus in a dark corner of the cave. The coup is successful. Typhon is now the undisputed apex predator of the universe. Zeus is paralyzed. The universe is lost. The only thing that can save the cosmos now is a flute. The empire is finished unless Zeus gets his mobility back immediately. Therefore, Hermes, the god of thieves, and Pan, the god of the wild, execute a highly classified covert rescue operation. They understand that brute force failed, so they rely entirely on stealth. They infiltrate the cave network in Cilicia. Pan uses his specialized pipes to play a calculated acoustic frequency. The music acts as a sedative. It distracts the guard dragon, Delphine, slowing her heart rate and lulling her into a hypnotic state. While the guard is neutralized, Hermes bypasses the internal security and steals the tendons back. They locate Zeus and surgically reinsert the tendons into his arms and legs. This perfectly restores his physical structure and nervous system. Zeus is fully operational again, but more importantly, he is enraged. He summons a chariot pulled by winged horses, grabs a fresh supply of high-yield lightning bolts from Mount Olympus, and launches a second offensive. But this time, Zeus utilizes superior military strategy instead of blind aggression. He attacks Typhon exclusively from the air, maintaining a safe distance to utilize his ranged weapons. Consequently, He forces Typhon north into an area with difficult mountainous terrain. At this exact moment, the Fates, who act as the ultimate agents of universal order, intervene. They run a psychological operation on the monster. They trick Typhon, offering him magical fruit while claiming it will exponentially increase his physical strength. Typhon eats the fruit, but the fruit is highly toxic. It instantly drops his stamina to 0 and cripples his nervous system. Typhon retreats south toward the island of Sicily, desperately trying to cross the sea. Zeus sees the ultimate tactical opportunity. He does not use another lightning bolt. Instead, he uses the environment itself. As Typhon crosses the water, Zeus picks up an entire tectonic plate. He drops millions of metric tons of solid rock directly on top of the weakened monster. This massive rock formation becomes Mount Etna. Typhon is crushed, pinned permanently beneath the Earth's crust. But he is still alive. Therefore, whenever he struggles against the weight, the intense friction and pressure force the mountain to erupt with lava. The biological weapon is permanently neutralized, buried under a continent. Zeus wins the war and returns to Mount Olympus. He is now the undisputed king of the cosmos. But this near-death experience forces a critical change in his governing strategy. Why did this disaster happen? It happened because the universe operates on raw, unchecked power. Chaos breeds monsters. Zeus realizes a fundamental truth about leadership and survival. Brute force wins immediate battles, but structured order is required to sustain a long-term empire. If he relies exclusively on the destructive power of the lightning bolt, someone bigger and stronger will eventually take it from him. He cannot afford to fight a Typhon every century. The math simply does not work in his favor. Therefore, he must fundamentally restructure the government. He establishes Mount Olympus not just as a military fortress, but as a rigid system of law. He divides the universe logically to prevent infighting and delegate responsibility. Zeus manages the sky, atmospheric conditions, and foreign policy. Poseidon manages the sea, naval territories, and global trade routes. Hades manages the underworld, mortality rates, and subterranean resource extraction. Zeus appoints judges to settle disputes. He creates strict rules for mortals regarding hospitality and oaths. He sets up a massive bureaucracy of specialized gods to manage the weather, war, agriculture, commerce, and death. He stops ruling by pure fear and physical dominance. Instead, he starts ruling by institutional authority. He transitions from a violent warlord to a calculating statesman. This is the specific pivotal moment where Greek mythology shifts from a story about the violent forces of nature to a story about the architecture of civilization. The cosmos is finally organized. The protocol is permanently set. Order defeats chaos. The government is stable. The king is secure in his fortress. But beneath the crust of the earth, Gaia is still alive. She analyzes the failure of Typhon. She realizes that single massive monsters eventually fail against organized, strategic military strikes. Therefore, she changes her tactics. She does not build one monster. She builds a decentralized army. She creates the giants. They are a new breed of warrior, heavily armored and biologically immune to god-tier weapons. A god cannot kill a giant. It is a biological impossibility built into their DNA. Next time, the ultimate siege begins. The gods face an unkillable army marching on the capital. But to survive the invasion, the immortal king must break his own established rules. He must recruit a mortal to do the killing for him. Subscribe for the season finale. A 10,000-ton boulder shatters Zeus's golden throne into dust. As the earth cracks open, an army marches out of the dirt. Their legs are made of living, venomous snakes. They do not want a treaty. They want total control of the universe. This is the exact day the gods realized they had a fatal weakness, and surviving required them to recruit the one species they viewed as useless. Last episode, Zeus survived a biological weapon when he defeated Typhon, the father of all monsters. He trapped the beast under 3,300 meters of volcanic rock at Mount Etna. Zeus sits on his rebuilt throne, convinced the long war is over and his power is secure. He is wrong. Gaia, the Earth, is a persistent enemy. She lost her greatest monster, so she pivots her strategy. She abandons the massive weapon concept and builds a decentralized military force. Her goal today is simple. She wants to evict Zeus and burn his empire to the ground. Gaia is furious because Zeus locked her first children in a maximum security prison. She bleeds onto the soil. From that glowing blood, she engineers a new breed of warrior, the giants. They are not mindless beasts, but a highly organized, armored militia. They wear thick metal plates that deflect attacks. They carry spears measuring exactly 100 meters long, the size of ancient redwood trees. Instead of regular feet, they have massive serpents for legs. This gives them a low center of gravity. You cannot knock them over. They do not waste time negotiating. They attack the supply chain by ripping mountains right out of the crust. They stack Mount Pelion directly on top of Mount Ossa. They are building a physical rock staircase straight into the sky. They are coming for the throne room. Zeus looks at the approaching threat and tells his siblings to grab their weapons. It is time for another brutal war. But then, the ancient Moirai, the Fates, deliver a fatal system error. Zeus charges his master lightning bolt and aims directly at the leading giant. But the Moirai step forward and stop his hand. They reveal a cosmic loophole, a biological lock built deep into the giant's DNA. Gods cannot kill giants. It is a physical impossibility. A god can blast a giant with 100 million volts of electricity or drop a mountain on a giant's head, but the giant will simply heal and stand back up. The gods lack the specific authorization required to terminate them. There is only one way a giant dies. The final killing blow must be delivered by a mortal. Zeus is stunned. He is the supreme ruler of the cosmos, but his power is useless here. He has all the capital, but he cannot spend it. The giants know about this loophole, and they laugh as they climb the mountain staircase. They are immortal against the immortals. Zeus needs to outsource the violence. He needs an independent contractor. He needs a human. Zeus looks at his limited options and finds his mortal son, Heracles. Heracles is half god and half human, making him a walking weapon of mass destruction. Crucially, he still has mortal blood pumping through his veins. Zeus recruits him immediately, drafting a military alliance where gods and mortals fight on the exact same side. The battle begins. It is a slaughter, but it requires synchronized teamwork. The first target is Alcyoneus, a giant who possesses a secondary geographical loophole. He is immortal as long as he is touching the soil of his homeland, Pallene. Realizing the strategy requires more than brute force to bypass this defense system, Heracles tackles the 50-meter monster. He drags Alcyoneus violently across the border, severing his connection to the earth. Once the giant is off his home soil, Heracles crushes him. The rest of the divine family enters the slaughter. Apollo, the master sniper, shoots another giant in the left eye. The giant falls hard, but due to the biological loophole, he does not die. Heracles sprints across the battlefield and shoots the giant in the right eye with an arrow coated in lethal hydra poison. The toxic venom melts the giant from the inside out, turning the monster to dust. Dionysus beats a giant down with a wooden staff wrapped in thick vines, allowing Heracles to finish the enemy off with his club. Poseidon, the god of the sea, intercepts a massive giant named Polybotes. He assesses the threat and decides he does not need to draw his trident. Instead, he reaches into the ocean and picks up a massive island. He drops 25,000 square kilometers of solid landmass directly on his head. The metric weight of the island pins the giant deep underground, trapping him forever beneath the tectonic plates. Then comes the final boss, Porphyrion, the undisputed king of the giants. Porphyrion ignores Zeus and walks straight toward Hera, the queen. He decides to humiliate Zeus by attacking his wife in front of the army. Zeus loses his mind. He unleashes a concentrated beam of pure plasma, striking Porphyrion in the chest at exactly 30,000 degrees Celsius. The blast blinds the continent. The giant falls heavy to his knees. His armor melts into liquid metal and his flesh burns away. But because of the biological loophole, his skeleton keeps moving forward. He is still breathing. Heracles steps right out of the smoke. He draws his heavy bow, and as the string snaps back, the hydra-poisoned arrow pierces the giant's throat. The king of the giants falls dead. The chain of command breaks instantly, causing the surviving giants to scatter in fear. The gods hunt down every last one. The defense is flawless, and the earth has lost the war. Gaia retreats deep into the earth, broken by the realization that her own creations require human executioners. The gods won the war, but the Moirai designed this mortal loophole for a very important reason. The ancient Greeks engineered this concept to solve a major political problem. If gods are all-powerful, they do not need us. If Zeus can solve every problem with a lightning bolt, humans are useless. We are just a passive audience watching the sky. The Titanomachy changes the operating structure of the universe by establishing a permanent law of mutual dependence. Immortality is a massive liability. Because the gods cannot die, they cannot enact ultimate permanent change. They are stagnant. They need mortality to break the rigid rules of the cosmos. This is the ultimate contract between heaven and earth. The gods provide the baseline infrastructure. They make the rain fall, they make the crops grow, and they maintain global order. But in return, they desperately need human agents on the ground. They need mortals to fight their wars, solve their disputes, and feed them with constant worship. They care about us because they mathematically have to. We are the critical loophole, the assassins they cannot legally hire. If you were Zeus, would you trust a mortal to save your empire? Let me know in the comments. Without mortals, the gods lose the throne. This establishes the permanent operational strategy of Greek mythology going forward. Gods will always manipulate humans, because humans are the most valuable, limited asset in the universe. Zeus won the war, but he learned a terrifying lesson. No king is invincible. He sits alone in his empty throne room, paralyzed by paranoia. He remembers how he overthrew his own father, and he remembers how his father overthrew his grandfather. The cycle of violent succession is a mathematical certainty. Then, he gets a terrifying new prophecy. His first wife, Metis, the goddess of wisdom, is currently pregnant. The prophecy states clearly that her second child will be a son, and that son will be physically stronger than Zeus. He will take the throne by force. Zeus panics. He cannot fight a destiny prophecy, and he cannot use a lightning bolt against fate. So, he looks back at his dark family history and remembers exactly what his father did to solve his problems. He walks up to his pregnant wife. He smiles. And then, he swallows her alive. Next time, we explore the horror of the new regime. We see what happens when you try to digest pure wisdom. A new goddess explodes right out of Zeus's skull, and we meet a mortal weaver named Arachne, who makes the fatal, arrogant mistake of trash-talking the king. Subscribe to witness the violent birth of strategy.